Dear Mr. President Gasparovich, dear Mr. President Komorovsky, dear Mr. President Valesa, dear Mr. President of the European Academy of Sciences and Arts Unger, dear Professor Kashai, dear Mrs. and Misters and Madams Ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to thank Professor Kashai for organizing this significant and actual conference, and I would also like to excuse Mr. Lajčák, who is in Warsaw at present, where he is negotiating with his colleagues, the ministers of foreign affairs of V4 countries and the Western Balkans. In my speech, I would like to focus mainly on the evaluation of the current situation in Europe from the point of view of the country which has the presidency of the Council of the European Union. At the time when we were accepting our presidency on the 1st of July 2016, the European Union experienced a shock caused by the surprising decision of the British citizens to withdraw from EU. In spite of the fact that we have got used to hear such bad news in the EU in the period of the last few years, this one was extremely difficult. We believed that European integration will be progressing despite all crises, maybe in a winding way, however, forward into greater integration and not the opposite way. It was based on the assumption that our citizens share the same opinions and as their governments, and thus believe that the European Union project, despite some of its imperfections, is the best thing that governments are able to offer. The example of Great Britain has shown us today that it is necessary to think about the unthinkable. The development in the European Union does not always have to lead to greater integration, but also into less integration or even into secession from the integration process. However, Brexit is not the disease itself, it is only one of its symptoms. The real disease has its title. It is the crisis of confidence. So far, the European elites have been convinced that they understand their citizens. However, more and more citizens do not understand them, or they refuse to understand. Standard language of standard political subjects and politicians concerning Europe and its values is confronted not only because of crisis, but also due to complicated media space, social networks, disinformation, half-truths and conspiracy theories. The Euro crisis, the migration crisis, worsening relations with Russia, all these things are supplemented with a new phenomenon, which is information warfare led in order to win heads and hearts of people, and the pro-European powers are unable to handle it. This situation has shown that the Slovak presidency of the Council of European Union will have to enrich its carefully planned program with a new and crucial dimension, the dimension in restoration of the credibility of the European Union. The Slovak presidency manual for the restoration of credibility is based on the concentration on questions which bother citizens the most, as well as through the sincere communication with citizens. The most important event of the Slovak presidency, the informal Bratislava summit, was dedicated to these aspects. The Bratislava summit of the 27 member states sent the signal that the EU 27 is unified and determined to overcome current and upcoming challenges. Openly and without embellishment, the leaders of the 27 countries admitted their failures, and they also determined the methods for their future cooperation. The Bratislava Declaration and the Bratislava Roadmap were adopted. The Bratislava Roadmap defined particular steps in three preferred areas: migration and protection of external borders, internal and external security, economic and social development. We have moved forward in the fulfillment of these priorities since the Bratislava summit because the confidentiality cannot be restored without any tangible results. We were successful in establishing the European border and Coast Guard on October 6, 2016, It's the significant step forward in order to maintain the Schengen area to travel without borders. In order to improve the migration issue, we participate with Federica Mogherini, High Representative, in the attempt to create and fulfill agreements, so-called compacts, with 5 preferred North African countries. The main aim is to create better living conditions and perspectives for these inhabitants and encourage them to search a future in their own homeland instead of taking a risky travel to Europe. Because only criminal organizations profit from such attempts. The improvement of life quality and economic opportunities in countries of origin is the best solution for all, migrants as well as for countries of origin and destination. This will be the main goal of ambitious and external European investment plan, which was recently announced on the 14th of September 2016 by the European Union. The Slovak presidency will work hard in order to put this plan into action. In the field of security, we cooperate with institutions and member states on the establishment of steps leading to the fulfillment of the global strategy on foreign and security policy for the European Union, which have been adopted before. The European Union has to be able to protect their citizens in a better way by the usage of crisis management tools in the epicenters of crisis in its neighborhood, or it should effectively help to strengthen our partners' resistance. We have possibilities that enable us to combine the principles of developed policies with the security. This is our strong point on which we should bring on. The other advantage is the promising cooperation between the EU and the NATO. The fulfillment of the Warsaw Declaration on transatlantic security in the scope of hybrid warfare adopted at the Warsaw Summit, or the assistance for the refugees and migrant crisis in the agency are new milestones in the cooperation. The security is again at the forefront in the priorities of our citizens' agenda, and we have to be able to show that the so far successful integration project with 500 million citizens is not only the economic giant, but also the guarantor and the power in the field of security and defense. The legitimacy and confidence of citizens in the European Union project will be measured by the amount of success in the field of security and defense in the next few months. Besides this stands that EU must have strong economy. One of the main challenges is the creation of job opportunities for young people. The vision without young people's perspective is a breeding ground for radicalization and misuse by undemocratic powers and extremism. The Slovak presidency of the Council of the European Union considers the creation of job opportunities as crucial for better usage of financial tools for the next year and as well as for the financial framework for 2014-2020. We consider a great success the approval of state budget's draft for 2017 in a record time, only 18 days after the release of the EU Commission's proposal. The completion of the Capital Market Union, the Economic and Monetary Union and the Banking Union will contribute to the restoration of confidence in the European Union. If we want to keep pace with the dynamic technical development in the world, the creation of the digital single market is not an option but a necessity. In order to use the potential of the European single market, an energy union has to be created. The aim of the Slovak presidency is to secure an affordable price of sustainable renewable energy. The inseparable part of the energy union is an ambition and effective climate policy. The Slovak presidency achieved significant success in this field. It was the ratification of the Paris Agreement, and thus the European Union proved its worldwide leadership in the fight against climate change. However, it will be a huge mistake to enclose into ourselves due to problems and crises, including the crisis on confidentiality. Our partners legitimately demand the European Union to become strong and engaged global player. It is necessary to maintain and strengthen the credibility of European Union towards the relations to the Western Balkans and Ukraine, and to strengthen the credibility of the European Union. Slovak presidency in the European Union wants to maintain dynamics. The progress of countries which want to become part of it must be followed by steps on our side. In this regard, the most important part will be the acceptance of EU Commission's conclusions in December. As well, we have to keep our given promise to countries such as Ukraine or Georgia that meet obligations and they are trying to achieve the visa liberalization. The Slovak presidency tries its best in this regard. The test of the EU's credibility will be also to maintain the business policy and to support free trade. We succeeded in the ratification of CEFTA agreement. However, the anti-globalization movement in Europe, but also in the USA, can turn the trend and lead to a new wave of protectionism. In the field of foreign policy, challenges are the stabilization of the East and South neighborhood with the emphasis on the Syrian conflict, the Ukrainian crisis, stabilization in North of Africa. The Slovak presidency supports steps leading to unification of voice and bigger engagement of the EU. Last but not least, there is a task of effective partnership with the new US administration as well as to define future relations with Russia. Due to certain and dynamic development in the world, we will not be able to restore the confidence of our citizens if we do not show that the voice of unified EU is honored, that it is perceptible and hearable in fulfillment of their legitimate interests. Ladies and gentlemen, the last 5 months since the acceptance of the presidency of the Council of the European Union were one of the most important in the history of the Slovak Republic as well as the European Union. Fate has given us a huge responsibility and we are taking it extremely serious. Each crisis hides some opportunities. This can also be said about our case and the presidency. Everything indicates that we have accepted the challenge. I believe that in the period of 1 month, we will be able to say that it was worth it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention.